guys want to get some coffee or something?
Can I get a cup of coffee? Black? Can't you see we talking? White?
Even little kids in Mexico drink coffee.
Well, I'm not a little kid in Mexico, okay?
That is the best coffee I've ever tasted.
A damn fine cup of coffee.
You want a cup of coffee?
No coffee.
Coffee drinker, huh?
Maybe we can grab some coffee?
Coffee! Coffee, 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 coffee!
God damn, Jimmy. This some serious gourmet shit. Me and Vincent would have been satisfied with some freeze-dried Taster's Choice, right? And he springs this serious gourmet shit on us.
Good morning. Broadcasting from my lunar base just down the street from Scribe Light's moon base. Welcome to Morning Coffee. My name is Christopher Moonlight. And today I am very excited, as I think probably all of you are who have heard the news. We are interviewing one of comic books' most prolific and well-loved creators. He is a visionary. He is a revolutionary. He is Chuck freaking Dixon.
People of Earth.
Thank you so much for joining us. We've got a lot of exciting stuff and hard-hitting questions to cover. And I hope you're having a great day. And I know you're excited to be here. Why wouldn't you be?
Oh, of course I am. Looking forward to this.
So before we start, let's bring in our other panelists. Of course, as always, we are joined by Das Wolfen, or John. Ladies, he's got an enormous Pfannenstücker. Good morning, John.
Good morning. Broadcasting from a cabin in the woods today.
You read the book, didn't you? You said the words aloud. And of course, our rock, we couldn't do it without him. We'd be dead in the water. Martin. Good morning, Martin.
Good morning, everybody.
And of course, we got the chat to acknowledge a lot of our wonderful regulars. We have Colonizer Jeebus, Danko, come again. Gap After Dark, D. Bud Martin, Anima Confusa. Did I say it right this time? Joe's Atmosphere, my honorary Oos, and Wajid Leaky. I probably said that wrong too. I said it long. I said it wrong. But thank you for joining us, and I'm sure we'll get other people joining us in the chat soon. Let's see what we got here. Good thing I know the show is at the same time all the time, because it does not show up in the live feed at all, upcoming or anything, and no notifications. This happens to everyone else. Wow. Well, I'm glad to know that. I'm not glad to hear that. I see it come up on my notifications, but I'm a host of the show, so that's different. And good morning. What's up, John?
Gap, if you unsub and resub, it should turn the notifications back on for you.
Oh, okay. And of course, hit the bell. Make sure you do that.
Yeah.
Good morning, Anima. And hello to everybody else. So I think we got everyone in the chat. And before we start, Martin, if we could share the screen, and we'll probably be sharing the screen for the most part. Of course, if you enjoy the show and want to support me individually, there is the subscribe star that I have for Christopher Moonlight. And if you are a member of the subscribe star, you will get behind the scenes on the Quantum Terror, as well as my second film, which is an animated feature, which is in production right now. So we will be sharing behind the scenes of the production as we make it. Animated feature called Escape from Planet Omega 12, about a beautiful woman marooned on a prehistoric style alien planet. If you like Tarzan and Conan and Princess of Mars and Star Wars and Star Trek, this is definitely for you. And of course, remember, we are going to be streaming on KGRA Digital Radio Broadcasting starting in January. We already have Dangerous Military Nerds on there, I think, every Wednesday. Yeah, well, my pronunciation wasn't bad that time. Yes, I know my German is awful, except when I say Wandstücker. So, of course, now that we've gotten through all of that, I want to talk to this magnificent writer here, who is, of course, known for being the co-creator of Bane, the man who broke Batman. But today, he's working with none other than movie star and, the better of the two in the rivalry between Stallone and Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone. So, Chuck, let's dive right in. How are you feeling? How's life as a creator in this day and age where you get to work on so many wonderful projects?
It's exciting. I only get to write what I feel like writing. It's all independent publishing. I'm, in no fear of being canceled because I, work with people who have faith in me and share my views, and for the most part. And yeah, it's good. It's good days.
Well, we've got this project now. This is so interesting to me, and I really want to dive into the people that you get to work with, the creative process. Just starting with, the big one, Sylvester Stallone, and I mean this in all seriousness. In the 80s, especially in the early 90s, there was always perceived like they're the two big muscly action guys, which was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone. And there was always seemed to be kind of this friendship rivalry thing going on and off relationship. And it seemed that as far as A-list movie stars, Schwarzenegger dominated. But as time goes on and Schwarzenegger's kind of receded from the public eye, I've always felt like Stallone was actually the one who, out of the two of them, rather than just caring about being the biggest guy in the room, the alpha male, like Stallone actually seems to care about storytelling. He's a screenwriter, but when it comes to John Rambo, this seems like a character that he's continues to think about very deeply and care about as a storyteller. What is the relationship between you guys? Because you guys you got called in to possibly write Expendables 2, right?
Yeah, he read an Expendables prequel comic that I wrote and liked it, and he asked if I wanted to come in and help him do rewrites on Expendables 2. But it didn't work out. But it was the beginning of a continuing professional relationship where he had me write dialogue for an Expendables video game. He had me do some web content for Lionsgate. And then I approached him originally with, after he had told me about Expendables Go to Hell, I suggested it would make a great comic. And we ended up doing that as a graphic novel. And
now
then,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he opened the doors to the rest of his, cast of characters. And I suggested, well, why not do Rambo's first tour in Vietnam?
Now, before we get into that, I want to kind of go back a little bit to the rewriting of Expendables 2. Now, if I understand, you went into this Hollywood board meeting of executives or, whoever, suits, and started giving your own ideas and as an alternative to their ideas, which you pretty quickly found out like they're not interested in that. They just want to hear themselves talk. But is that what got Stallone more interested? Did he like what you were saying in that room?
Well, leading up to the production meeting, which he arranged, he had them pay my way out there. They stiffed me on the hotel bill, by the way, but yeah. He had them pay my way out there. And, but leading up to that, we had quite a few phone conversations and found out that we shared a lot of the same views on storytelling and particularly action stories. And when I got to the production meeting, Sly was there, and we were completing each other's sentences. We were both pitching together for these changes, and I thought it went well. But it was my first production meeting, and I know now that every production meeting seems to go well until you leave the room, and then they talk. What they say, what they really feel about what you just said. Because everybody's a genius when they're in the room and not when the minute they leave. So they really didn't like my ideas. I got along really well with one of the producers, but the other two apparently were cold to me. So
that's kind of like when Gary's here and then he leaves. We're like, oh, thank God that guy's gone. So okay, so you guys, it seems like you really got along in terms of storytelling ideas, or even I'd say like your personal philosophies of storytelling, whatever they may be. It seems like you really gelled. Now, before we go again into First Kill, this isn't your first comic book outing with Sylvester Stallone. Expendables Go to Hell. I mean, that seems, even though the Expendables is very fun and outlandish, that seems like a super outlandish idea. Did he want to make that as a movie at first, or was it just kind of a throwaway idea that he mentioned and then you kind of caught on to?
Well, he was telling me his proposed plot line for the 5th Rambo movie, which is quite a bit different than the film he made. And then he said, but the movie I'd really like to make is Expendables Go to Hell, but the studios will never let me. And I said, well, what's it about? And he said, the Expendables literally go to hell and fight Satan. And I'm like, well, that should be a comic book. That's got comic book written all over it. And I called Richard Meyer, who's a huge Expendables fan, probably the #1 Expendables fan in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, sit down before I tell you this. And he's laughing. And I said, seriously, get your butt in a chair before I tell you this. And within a couple of days, we had the first 5 pages written and some artwork. Because that's the way it moves with Stallone. It moves quickly.
Now that's good because, you know, again, one of the reasons why I didn't want to work in Hollywood was because I know any ideas that I pitch are going to turn into something else entirely, to the point where it's not what I wanted to do, and why bother unless there's a big paycheck, which also there never is, because they drag things out and drag things out. It's like they're trying to keep you broke until you give up and want to sign anything. So to hear that Stallone really wants to, just get it going, which I've actually heard. I know they're controversial figures for very valid reasons, but I actually heard that the Weinsteins were also successful because they didn't mess around. They're like, okay, let's do it. And they started getting it done, which is a lot of what I like about the lower budget studios, like, what Roger Corman does or Charles Band. But just one of the things. Oh, and by the way, before we continue, more people in the chat: Magitek Mags and Zax. Welcome, guys. I'm really glad you're here and could join us for this. Now, of course, this is the era of YouTube, the YouTuber. We're broadcasting on YouTube, but we've got your boy Zach, and also another favorite, the Critical Drinker, working on this crowdfunder for First Kill. What is it how did you initially get in touch with them? Did you reach out to them, or were they fans of yours, or was it just kind of, through mutual online communication, like social media? Like, how does those relationships form?
I just think it was, Richard had a relationship with Will Jordan. And just he said to me, he says, I might reach out to him because, he loves comics, he loves action stories, he loves Rambo. So he did, and we got the Critical Drinker on board, writing a special 15-page comic about Major Troutman.
So were you a fan of the Critical Drinker before?
Oh yeah, I never miss one of them. They're just, it's funny. It's one of those videos where I just sit and nod. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's right. Yeah, he's right. I don't agree with him on a couple of movies, but 98% of the time I agree with him.
Is one of them Alien 3?
No. One of them is Saving Private Ryan.
So. Let's see. Now, I think he doesn't. No. All right. Just as an aside, are you pro or con Saving Private Ryan?
Saving Private Ryan is one of the worst war movies ever made.
Okay. I'm not going to argue with you on that one.
Okay. That'll be another show.
That'll be another show. It's interesting. Just as an aside, this is what we're dealing with Rambo. Well, it's not actually called Rambo. It's just called First Kill. Right. Because I think Richard was, your boy Zach. That's the better way to refer to him for the purposes here. But He was saying the naming conventions of, because originally it was Rambo, then it was First Blood, and then it was Rambo 3.
First Blood. First Blood is the novel in the first movie.
Oh, okay. So the naming conventions are weird. So it's not Rambo First Kill. It's just First Kill. We just use Rambo, so people make the connection.
Right.
So, yeah. What is because your boy Zach is writing this as well. Were you co-writing it with him? How did this work?
No, it was pretty much. No, he's not co-writing on this one the way he did on Expendables Go to Hell. This was pretty much Stallone and I having a brief conversation, Sly laying out what he wanted to see in this and what he didn't want to see in it, and then I just went to town.
And what kind of things does he want to see? I mean, where does he see a story like this being entertaining?
Well, he wanted to see, I mean, it's a war story. It's primarily an action story. But he wanted to see the evolution of John Rambo, that he was just an average teenager in Arizona. Nothing really special about him. He was an athlete, things like that. And we established that. And then this story is his first step in becoming the John Rambo that we would come to know. The killing machine, the ultimate soldier, basically. And this story is, it's his first tour in Vietnam. We take him from Arizona to Vietnam for his first tour, and is basically his first big fire mission, and how he comes through that.
So he's essentially, again, Stallone has had a lot of time to think about this character. I mean, he's lived this character pretty much since, well, almost the beginning of his career, at least his career in the public eye as a celebrity, all the way up to what I think the last movie came out just last year. Was it last year, or has it been 2 years now? I can't remember.
I think it's
3 or 4 years ago.
But he's, obviously he cares very deeply about this character, enough to see him as someone who was once just a normal teenager who is essentially molded by a series of unfortunate situations. Does he talk to you about the kind of the psychology of Rambo, or did he kind of just give you story beats and let you work it out?
Well, through various discussions we've had, because, I mean, he talked to me about, as I said, he talked to me about the last Rambo film. And we basically talked about Rambo. And then I talked a lot about the fourth Rambo film, because I really love that movie. And through that, I think he got the correct impression that I understand the character, and then, he talked quite a bit about it. So, and he trusts me. He knows that I know this character. I'm not going to violate anything that's come before, or I'm not trying to make it my own. I'm not trying to make any kind of statement here with the character. I'm just presenting the character unadulterated the way that Sly would want to see it presented.
Now, okay, that's interesting. You talk about not wanting to really make any kind of statement with the character, which we see a lot. And one of the bigger questions that I wanted to ask is, we seem to be in a time where there is a kind of a war on entertainment. It seems like people want to either use, hijack entertainment, wear like a skin suit to propagandize, or just break things out of contempt for them. And I know you're aware of this, and I get the impression that Sly is aware of this as well. Does he kind of keep up on this stuff? Does he watch Critical Drinker or your boy Zach's YouTube channel, or is it just kind of, does he have his own lens to look at it through?
Yeah, he's got his own lens. I mean, he's in the middle of all of this stuff. He has to be aware of it, but for the most part, I don't think he lets it alter what he's doing. I mean, the last Rambo movie, come on. I mean, if that was like a big studio production, they never would have let him make it. I mean, that movie would never have been made for HBO Max or Disney Plus. They would have made him change it. I mean, he couldn't even film it on location because of the subject matter.
Yeah. Now that's interesting. That I don't know the production details of that movie, so I didn't realize that he made it outside of the studio. I know, and he got a lot of flack for it too. For obvious reasons. Did he have anything to say about that after the fact, or did any of that factor into this?
No, I just like oblique references to, they were coming for him, much like they were coming for Rambo. And he told me about how he had to film in, I think, Portugal and Bulgaria. He couldn't film here or in Mexico, which tells you a lot. I mean, it's just a straight up action film. The bad guys were bad guys. They just happen to be Mexican cartel members who I don't think anybody has any illusions about.
Well, this is a funny thing because, yeah, you would think, yeah, this is obvious. If you're going to make a story about that, then yeah, that would be the ethnicity. It's not like cartels have HR department with saying we need to hire more diverse drug dealers or pushers, or, and it's weird because, again, just talking about hijacking entertainment to propagandize at the moment, there's, how do I say this without getting dinged by YouTube? But there's a certain group of people in England that are causing problems, especially for young women there. And that group of people is from another place, not England. And there are currently soap operas, BBC soap operas, being produced that cover stories or tell stories about this situation, but it's all native Englishmen that are the problem.
Right.
And it's so weird and insidious. It's like trying to gaslight. It's like essentially saying, if you knew someone, like a young woman who is being abused, like coming to her and going like, well, let me tell you a story about how it's not your abuser's fault. It's actually this person over here that has nothing to do with it.
Right.
Anyway, that's kind of going off topic, but I understand where Sly is coming from with that. Now I don't want to dwell too much on that because I'm very excited about that. I do, and please, if you can in any way, tell him I'm a big fan and a big admirer of him as a human being and what he's accomplished. But I also want to talk about, again, your boy Zach and the Critical Drinker. Now you have a lot of experience as a writer. I think it's safe to say, especially in comic books and how they're structured, how they're created. You've got a great audience success rate. When it comes to working with them, is it kind of like being an editor with them or a mentor to them? How are they doing as writers, and how have you seen them come along since they started?
Well, the Critical Drinker, Will Jordan, I mean, he's written novels. He's an accomplished writer on his own, and even if he just did the videos, it's clear he has an understanding of pacing, plotting, characterization. It would be stunning if he couldn't actually do it himself because he's got such a keen understanding of how that stuff works. And then Richard is very good. I mean, he's a very good comic writer on his own. I don't know how much I've taught him or if I've taught him anything. I've more taught him about dealing with freelancers, things like that, and bringing him, new talent that he wasn't aware of. But there's a creative process when Richard proposes one of his wacky ideas. And they're crazy ideas, but they're wonderfully crazy. They're outrageously ridiculous. And then it's my job to dramatize them and have them make sense. And we have a really great give and take. He's as flexible as I am on this stuff. There's no egos. If he doesn't like something, he tells me. If I don't like something, I tell him. And it's taken into consideration. So it's been a tremendous working relationship.
Oh, that's great. I listen to him and Drinker whenever they do a video. And because I work from home, I'm always scrolling through YouTube going like, okay, what do I put on next while I'm doing this other thing? So in a way, it's an odd thing, YouTube as well, because you feel like you're getting to know this person, but you also have to keep in mind they have no idea that you exist.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, I guess, like with your conversations with Sly, it's, you feel that mutual agreement on certain philosophical subjects, and sometimes you disagree, but it helps you formulate new ideas. I know listening to him talk about comic book writing, I definitely have different ideas, but I've also learned a lot from him just based on what he's observed. And I think that's something right now that is really kind of killing the mainstream, is that they seem to not be able to handle criticism. And the reason that it's not just like, oh, I don't like this. It's the fact that we're able to, in this day and age, really kind of pick apart exactly why something is going wrong. And I was wondering if you have, like I said, why are we at war for our entertainment at the moment? And what is it exactly do you think is killing it? At least in broad strokes. I know that's a complicated question.
Well, I can answer from the comics end. At the big two, Marvel and DC, your senior editors, the ones that created the comics that we all know and love, they retired or moved on or were fired or whatever, and they were replaced by a crop of editors who were at best indifferent. They were just taking up space and time. They were glorified traffickers. They weren't actually guiding the company anywhere. And the guidance of the company was left up to, the publisher or editor-in-chief. And so all of the comics were done sort of a hive mind. All these comics are going to reflect what the guy up top wants. That's always a mistake. And that created a void. And that void was filled with, wokesters and tourists and opportunists who now run the big two companies and call the shots, even though they're, a lot of them are junior to the older staff members. They're the ones calling the shots because they're the cool kids, and that's the end of the big two. I mean, it's over. It's been over for a long time.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's my thought on just that in general is I feel like it's been taken over by people who lied on their resume to get the job, and now that they're there, they have no idea how the job is actually done. They just do kind of what'd you call it? Like an imitation of the Hollywood version.
Yeah.
Anyway, but you've come up with solutions. And by the way, I can't remember if I noticed, or mentioned before, but Dragon Ruse is also in the chat. Welcome, Dragon Ruse. Thank you for joining us. And John, what's up?
Chuck, do you think Zazov's changes will actually do anything to save DC Comics?
No, because the thing about it is DC Comics, not the DC properties, but DC Comics is such a minuscule part of the Warner's empire that they often literally, and I mean literally when I say literally forget about DC Comics. They think about the movies and the TV shows, and they forget the source of it. I don't think they understand the first thing about comic books or how to fix this. My biggest hope for Zaslav is that he just shuts the company down and licenses the characters out. DC Comics would become like the Rather Group. They would be a licensing firm, and let somebody who actually gives a crap about the characters create comics and graphic novels based on them.
What would you, again, another big question, and maybe it's not something that you're interested in. I think it's something that I certainly think about every once in a while, but, hypothetically, someone from Warner Brothers comes to you and says, we're making you editor-in-chief at DC Comics. Here's a big paycheck. What would you do with that universe to make it viable again, or at least creatively viable again?
Boy, I really don't know. I mean, that's a tall order. I often joke, but I'm only half joking, is that the way to get people back to reading comics, because we've lost a lot of readers. We've generally lost a generation or two of readers because there were no comics for kids to get interested in. There was nowhere for them to see them outside of a comic book shop. What I would do is the most outrageous crossovers you could possibly imagine. They would actually get attention. I mean crossovers that everybody would go, well, I at least want to look at that, and of course put the creators on them that, would make them worth looking at.
I think the most outrageous crossover I ever read was Archie versus Predator.
Yeah.
After I finished reading
Dr.
that, I was like,
meets Harry Potter. I mean, come on, who wouldn't want to look at that?
Yeah, that's true.
Get the lawyers in and figure out some crossovers, some amazing jaw-dropping crossovers that everybody would want to look at.
Now, one of the things. Oh, and welcome to Bill Barclay and Peter Vakeman fan site. Thanks for joining us, guys. So one of the, so crossovers and okay, that was what I was going to say. You mentioned that we lost a generation, and I see kids are into manga, so manga is fulfilling that need for them. But of course, we're Western comics fans. One of the things I've noticed though is we're all, I mean, I'm a storyteller, you're a storyteller. A lot of people who do YouTube channels like your boy Zach and Critical Drinker are storytellers. We kind of got into doing the critiquing game because we ourselves want to be able to tell better stories. But I feel like one of the things that really doesn't get mentioned a lot in any of the channels that I watch is kids. I feel like a lot of us we're coming at it from a point of view of when we were kids and what we feel affection for because we grew up with it. But I don't, it's like my daughters, they're into Dancing with the Stars and Hamilton. But comics are still more of a male oriented audience, and there are women in it. But are we, I often wonder, is there more we could be doing to think about how to appeal to that new generation that we lost, or is it just lost and we got to see what comes next?
Well, I mean, one way would be to make comics available to kids, where they actually saw them. And when I was a kid, you couldn't avoid comics. They were literally everywhere. Everywhere you went, there were comic books. And, when the big two decided to abandon the newsstand in favor of direct market, they lost all access to kids. The last time I saw a lot of kids at a convention and at store appearances was back in the early 90s. But of course, we were still on the newsstand.
Yeah.
And that's where they were getting introduced to the characters. That's the entry level. But the comic book shops thought that the newsstands were a competitor. They didn't realize, no, this is the wine tasting party is at the newsstand, and then they go to the liquor store.
We need to bring back the grocery store spinner racks.
Exactly, grocery stores, drugstores. I mean, just seed them into wherever you can. I mean, when I used to go to the barber shop, there was a pile of comic books.
Oh yeah, it's funny. My and what you're saying, by the way, I've live streamed a couple of times with Peter Samedi of Alternate Comics, and he said the same thing. And it, of course, it harkens back to when I was a kid, 13 years old. I was riding my bike to the Thrifties a mile up the road from my house to get an ice cream and check the spinner rack. And my actual gateway drug to comic books was the fact that I wasn't allowed to see Terminator or Aliens or Predator because I was too young. They were rated R, but there were comic books on the rack of Terminator and from Now Comics. And I seem to remember you were a writer on like a 2-issue arc on that, but that was my I'm getting something I'm not supposed to have. My parents, they won't take me to the movies to see it, but there's a comic book that has the Terminator story in there. And I was so fascinated with that. And then when a comic book store opened, I was like, I'm going to ride my bike to this and see what else there is. And that's when I discovered, I think at the time there was, McFarlane and Peter David were doing Ground Zero of the Hulk, and Sam Keith was on Marvel Comics Presents, and then there was the Weapon X thing, and Mark Silvestri was doing Wolverine with I think who was writing that?
Larry
Hama?
Hama. Larry Hama.
Yeah, Larry Hama was writing that. That was excellent. So
that's good stuff.
It was like just a, like I said, like you said, that wine tasting or whatever, and opening it up. So now we're discussing this, and I think that's a good segue to essentially say that you're doing this. Though. Whoops, I was on the wrong screen. Hold on a second. So there are two sites that I want to talk about. One is Arkhaven, which has, if we click on this, ArcTunes, all of these great, and look, hey, there's this right here. Your name's on a lot of these.
Yep.
Let's see.
And I worked on a few my name isn't on.
Yeah. Avalon. I mean, it seems to me like you might have an addiction to sitting at the keyboard and writing.
It's a compulsion. It's not an addiction.
A compulsion, yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot here. My sister Suprema, sorry. I always do that in my head. I just call it My Sister Supreme because I always think of Supreme. But the one that I'm really, where is it? Let's see. It's down here somewhere. Here it is. Something Big. I'm going to click on this because I'm really, as a sci-fi fan, I'm really enjoying this. But I think you've always had an affection for crime dramas and crime thrillers. So you took sci-fi and brought that kind of crime heist element into it. And I've been checking this out since you guys started. I really enjoy the artwork as well. Yeah, is there any particular story that, well, like I just want to ask you about this one because I am interested to hear where this is going and how you came across this concept and what, how you formulated it.
I think it started with, what if Elmore Leonard wrote an alien invasion story? And then I thought, why not mash up the heist and the alien invasion story and see what happens? And I created this rather bleak scenario where the story begins 30 years after the aliens have conquered the planet. And now they're basically raping us for our natural resources and ignoring the human race as if they were ants at a picnic.
Oh, so it's Washington.
Yes, exactly. It's a new ruling elite that came from the stars. So it's 30 years on, and it's bleak as hell. I mean, the human race is over at this point. And this guy in his 70s who used to be a holdup man, bank robber, he discovers that amongst all of the other natural resources the aliens are digging up, there's gold. But the aliens don't use the gold. They discard it. And so he decides he's going to steal it from them because it's one of the few commodities that's actually still useful as currency on the planet as civilization falls.
I got to say, you accomplished something that I almost personally thought was impossible, which is I, at this point, am allergic to post-apocalyptic stories. But I still managed to get wrapped up in this one. And I think that's because you also gave us a little glimpse at, as bleak as you say it is, you gave us a glimpse in how civilization might start to reform itself after the fact, rather than just, again, I'm a huge Terminator fan, but I was never interested in the future war. I was interested in what was going on because the future war seems so bleak. It's like, even if you win, like, where do you start from there? Or zombie stuff is usually, like Walking Dead. It's just like, every man for himself from here on out. I always feel like there would be some sort of, just in general, I mean, we formed civilization to start because life was chaos to begin with. And so here you kind of see that happening as well. But of course, it makes sense. It's almost like the crime bosses are trying to become feudal lords or kings of their realm now.
Yeah, I mean, they're reorganizing society on like a medieval level, and you know, and the thing is, I mean, someone said that these kind of stories are usually misery porn, but there's a lot of laughs in this story. Some of them are dark, but you know, there's humor injected here, and there's, you know, characters you can care about, and I'm not just you know, willfully or randomly killing off characters to raise interest and things like that. I mean, there's a goal in mind. There's an end to this story, not just to, you know, bring everybody down about the end of the human race.
What I like about this character too is that he takes these, essentially they're like a little gang of thieves that are just, you know, they're doing it to survive, and he kind of becomes their mentor, you know, kind of begrudgingly, but it seems like he's, you know, underneath has some form of affection for them, and that they're learning something too about being a little more than they are, which I think is a great. Again, I know you don't like to put messages in the story, so I don't think message is the right word, but just in terms of, you know, stories should at least have something useful in them for people that might help them understand how to interact with life and behave. Do you think about that at all, or do you think that just kind of is a result of understanding good story structure?
Well, I think, you know, the relationship grew as I wrote it, because I mean, initially when he meets them, they beat the crap out of him and steal all his stuff.
Yeah.
And then he goes to get it back and then realizes, hey, I need a gang. And these kids have nothing to do. They're sitting around in an empty swimming pool all day. So he hires them as his gang. And of course, a relationship blossoms, but it blossoms without them ever referring to it. And there's no sentiment here. There's no sentiment involved. I mean, he needs them. They're useful to him. And then after a while, he becomes protective of them. But not so protective he isn't constantly putting them in danger.
Yeah, that's true. Well, this kind of is like the with the Mike Rowe philosophy, where he says safety third.
Yes, you know? yeah. He's like a bad uncle. He's like that dangerous uncle your parents worry about you going off with.
But still, you know, if you can survive him, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, you see these characters, and this is what I think is really compelling about this particular story and why I like it so much, is you see the characters around him learning from him and evolving. And I think that's, I don't know, I really enjoy that aspect of it. I'm not even, I mean, not that I'm not curious about what the aliens are doing, but it's kind of in the background of what the characters are doing, which is really enjoyable to me.
Yeah, the aspect that kind of grew out of it that I like the most is that the aliens are indifferent to the humans, and so there's not a lot of interaction. And then we learn later on the true nature of the aliens, and we're going to learn even more in the coming weeks about what this is all really about.
Now, with Arkhaven and Arktoons, I'll just point out to people, you know, you go to Arkhaven and then you go to Arktoons, which is, I clicked here, and there's plenty of stuff to keep you busy on Arkhaven on its own. But you just go to Arktoons, you click on the story you want to read, and then we've got 65 pages. They're a little bigger than pages. They're kind of, because you scroll down them. It's not set up like a traditional comic book page. But you can go and start from the beginning and get all of this content for free. Oh, and by the way, Shinosky is in the chat. So welcome, Shinosky. I hope, again, Chuck, I am known for mispronouncing everybody in the chat. So...
yeah, well, I do the same thing on my own show.
So now you've got something as, oh wait, we got a Bill Barclay. Isn't there an Alien TV series coming? Maybe this will incorporate some of the comics into it. I feel you know this, Chuck, because we had a whole interview about our opinions on Alien 3.
Right.
I am a huge Alien franchise fan. And when I say Alien franchise, I mean Alien and Aliens. And then the comic books and, you know, some of the other media. But again, this kind of goes back to, I'm excited about what people are creating independently. When I see that there's a new Alien movie, even if it's, I think the director who's signed on to the new Alien is excellent. And there's a new Alien TV show, I just feel zero excitement. And I'm not saying I don't want other people to not feel excited. I mean, I think I've said before, I think, if Hollywood could get their act together and create great content, it would be great for everybody, both independent and in the mainstream. But I feel nothing. I'm really interested to see what creators are doing independently, which is why I'm so excited. And Chuck, I got to say, I am really excited to see you it's like you're a bridge between both worlds. You're working with someone like Sylvester Stallone, and you're working with these newcomers, these YouTubers like your boy Zach and the Critical Drinker. I think there's a lot to be said for why that's exciting and why I want to give more attention to that. And just kind of, if the Alien series or TV show is great, then great. But I don't feel like I have a horse in the race anymore.
Well, I think we all share the same trepidation. You see a favorite old franchise that you grew up with and loved, and they're going to do a new version. And once on a time, you would have gone, yay! But now you go, oh no!
Well, because you feel like they're doing it to break it.
Yes. Yeah. I used to joke that I would never commit suicide because they might make another Star Wars movie. Now I might commit suicide if they make another Star Wars movie.
Seriously. Well, geez, it's like, I don't know. Oh,
sorry.
That's all right. This is live internet. Making it real. We've got dogs. I've got a dog that may bark. I bet Chuck's got a dog. You got a dog, right, Chuck?
No, I got a cat.
Okay. Just one?
Well, my wife has one and I have one. I should say, one cat has my wife and one cat has me. So
yeah, that's it. Hey, the cat box is right behind me.
There you go.
Not because I think it makes for good broadcasting. It's just the only place in the house we can put it where it's not going to be a nightmare. But yeah, so let's talk about Spinner Rack, because like I said, you're working with Hollywood people like Stallone. You're working with new people like other YouTubers. And now, and I don't know, I feel like you're kind of mentoring this independent movement. Yeah, you're not the only one. There are people like Etherman Skyver, and I would actually put your boy Zach in that realm as well. He's really kind of come into his own in a major way. But yeah, so what's Spinner Rack and how is it different than Archaven?
Well, Spin Rack is like an expansion, well, it's not really an enhancement of Archaven or Arctunes because they're not related. But we're calling it Comics 3.0. It's digital comics and beyond. It's going to be comics, games, collectibles, utilities. The dog liked that one, and it's hard. We'll have more to show you, and if you go to this site SpinRack.io, you can sign up and be alerted to everything going on. You'll also get an exclusive wallpaper for your cell phone. And it's the thing that's different about this is it's all based on the intellectual properties created by Graham Nolan and myself. Ones we created together, ones we created separately. And it's a huge universe because the two of us have been at this for a while and we've been independent creators for quite a while. So there's a lot going on. And the most important thing to remember, two important things to remember, is we're not abandoning print publishing for digital. There'll be print publishing as well. And also that we're not licensing our creations to this company. We are this company. We are, shareholders and on the board, both Graham and I, with some extremely talented people in the areas of tech, gaming, financing, and entertainment.
So sounds pretty huge to me. This is, it kind of sounds like you are trying to create that parallel, I guess, entertainment economy. I don't just mean economy economically, but just, the entire kind of intellectual sphere. It's pretty ambitious. How far along?
We're trying to get, like we talked about abandoning the newsstand. This is going to be the new newsstand, which is why we named it Spin Rack. We're trying to reach out to an audience that hasn't seen comics before, in addition to the people who love comics and don't know where to find them anymore or haven't been exposed to them in a while.
Do you think, I mean, I see a big market. You said you're not abandoning print, which I think is good because I'm of the Stan Lee philosophy where he said comic books are like boobs. Sure, they look great on your screen, but wouldn't you rather hold one in your hand?
That's Stan.
So, but I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a funny joke, but so you guys are going to still be, and I'm going to just post these so people can see them. We can share them in the chat so people can go to them. And let's see, let's get Arcaven on there. So yeah, what's the timeline on this? What do you kind of do you see anything? Do you have like a rollout plan that people can look forward to?
Well, we're looking to have our first mobile game, which is the first building block in this structure. First mobile game out, by Christmas, before Christmas. And then we'll have 3D games that we're already lining up to follow. We have artists and developers working on all this stuff now. So once the mobile game comes out, things are going to move pretty rapidly. And again, we're not abandoning print. I mean, Graham's still going to publish through Compass Comics. I'm still going to work at Arctoons. I'm still going to work for your boy Zach and Phenom Comics and places like that. So this is an adjunct. This is an addition. This is an enhancement to our stuff. Plus, it brings back a lot of our past inventory of characters to populate this universe.
Yeah, because I mean, you do have a big backlog. I think you started writing for. Well, maybe I'm thinking of something else, but did you write for? Was it Epic Comics?
I wrote for Epic. I wrote for Eclipse. I wrote, I wrote for First. I mean, all the independents coming up.
Let's see. Hello, everyone. When I hit sub, then live, YouTube isn't showing me what's live. Anybody else having this problem? I'm not sure I understand that question. Martin, does that make sense to you?
Yes, this is the third person that report to us that they're not getting neither notifications nor we are not showing in their suggestion and in anywhere.
Oh wow, we've had this problem before, and Gary thinks that YouTube is punishing us for something that he said or a copyright something, this clip they showed or something like that. And all I can say is, just everybody, be sure to sign up for KGRA Digital Broadcasting because we are in January. That's going to be our new home. We'll still be on YouTube, but you'll have access to everything we do on there as well. So, Chuck, I want to ask you about this mobile game. Oh, and by the way, and Jay Zeeks is here in the chat. I hope I said that one right.
Chris, we have 3 questions.
Oh, yes. Let's take some questions.
First one from Wajid.
Does this comic come in the continuity of the movies? I'm assuming you're talking about First Kill.
Yes.
Yeah, well, because I'm working with Sly, it doesn't violate, the continuity of the movies. It stays with what would probably have come before. And then we're going to do a couple of more of these, which will bring you closer to First Blood.
Oh, that's exciting.
We want to do like at least 2 more about Rambo's entire career, his various tours in Vietnam.
And, just so people see, there's the crowdfunder. Now, I believe you guys set this up for a 3-day campaign before it went into on demand.
Right.
And you made your goal in less than that time.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, but it can still be ordered. Should we watch the video?
Yeah, it's up to you.
Let's
show.
Sure.
Let's watch the crowdfunding video that Zach put up. So do that.
Hi, everyone. It's your boy, Zach, and the First Kill graphic novel Indiegogo campaign is now live. Rambo's First Tour of Duty, story by Sylvester Stallone and Chuck Dixon. Free set of dog tags with every order. In May of last year, I got an email from Chuck Dixon. It said, sit down before you read this. And he's like, Stallone wants to do a book about Rambo in Vietnam. I'm like, let's go. So it's the First Kill graphic novel. And then there is a brand new comic book written by Will Jordan, the critical drinker, called A New Kind of War. It's about Troutman, Rambo's mentor, during his days as a young officer in the Korean War. As many people, but not everyone knows, Stallone is a writer in addition to being an actor. He created Rocky, he wrote Rambo movies, he wrote all of the Expendables movies. So I had always gotten into my head that Rambo was this loner, morose character his entire life. And Stallone is like, no, he was the captain of the football team. This is Rambo before he's special forces. So he's a regular Joe, just in the common ranks before he distinguished himself and caught the attention of Colonel Troutman and got recruited for the special forces. So First Kill has the main cover by Dale Keown, and he's revved up. He's working on it right now. The hardcover is by a living legend, Simon Bisley. We're talking Lobo, Batman versus Judge Dredd. Aaron is doing the bulk of the story at 40 pages. The other 24 pages of First Kill are by Renzo Rodriguez, Butch Geis, Matt Barr, and Kenneth Lowe. So here's the line art by Aaron Alfici. This will be colored before it goes to print. And come on, I mean, the phrase level up does not do this justice. The featured perk is the Critical Drinker bundle. That comes with the First Kill graphic novel, A New Kind of War comic book, a set of dog tags, and a pinup for each book. All the line art for both books is complete. It's on the initial campaign for 3 days, and then it will transition to in demand. So go check it out. First Kill graphic novel, and you can get as part of a bundle or as an add-on, the Critical Drinkers, A New Kind of War comic book. Link is in the description. Thanks for watching. Bye.
That's just awesome. I forgot. Yeah, Dale Keown, Simon Beasley. I'm a huge Simon Beasley fan, and I know one of my very good friends, Val Merrick. We had a whole conversation on the phone about how amazing a draftsman we think that he is. So that's really exciting. As always, you know, it happens. I'm guilty of it this time too. Just forgetting to talk about the art, which is a big part of comic books. Is we love to look at this artwork. Every page is a piece of art. I think sometimes people like to show the pages without the lettering, but I've even come to think that there's like an art to how the letters and the artwork interacts.
Oh, absolutely.
Used art too many times in that, but yeah, I've you know, one of the challenges that I discussed with Peter Samedi even was I want to do comics that incorporate my model making skill. I love making miniatures and puppets, and I wanted to photograph stuff, kind of like what Dave McKean did, but not as surreal a style. But Peter Samedi was like, you know, the big thing to overcome is how do you incorporate letters without them just looking stark against what you create? So there's all sorts of challenges that way. But yeah, you've got some really beautiful art in here, and he's right. I mean, this line work, this pen work here is absolutely incredible. So yeah, I mean, you must be very excited as a writer. I mean, what's that like too? I mean, I know we've got some other questions. Let's see, like Widget Leaky said, didn't they cancel Dawn of DCU? I haven't been following DC for a while, so I'm not sure what that is. And oh, great. Thank you for providing the link to Archaven. But yeah, as a writer, do you write with the artists in mind, or do you just leave it to them to interpret, or do you have project ideas and go, I want that particular kind of artist or art style or name artist in it? Like how does that work with you?
It's kind of all of the above. On this project, you know, because we wanted to get it out in a timely fashion, we broke the story up into a number of introductory chapters to the main story, and each of those chapters would be drawn by different artists. And then Richard and I have discussion on who we would like to see on those stories. And I remember for the one particular story, I really wanted Matt Barr because I felt he was suited because it's kind of a shaggy dog. It's kind of a funny story. And I thought he would do a great job, which he did. And then, your boy Zach brings in Aaron, and I love his artwork. I mean, it's gorgeous. But what I love even more about it is his dedication to accuracy. This is very rare in a period piece, but I had no corrections to make. He did everything perfectly. All the equipment, the gear, the settings, everything is like dead on, like he'd been there.
I have to say, with this particular work, I know you said it's going to be colored. I just love looking at it black and white.
We need to do an artist edition of this story.
I think that would be really cool to do an artist edition because the black and white is gorgeous. And every artist plays their strength. I'm seeing this color work is fantastic. And again, this looks really great in black and white. This almost looks photorealistic here.
Yeah, it's Butch Guice. Yeah.
Just fantastic work. So let's see. Next question, Bill Barclay. Wait, he's worked with Stallone. Has he seen Tulsa King yet?
No, I have not. I'm dying to see it, but I'm old. I'm old school. I'm going to wait for the Blu-rays.
We have was it Cam's Crash Courses here in the chat? Welcome. Yeah. Thank you very much for being here. And you said did we have a third question?
No, that was the third question.
That was. How about you, John? You've been pretty quiet this time around. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I kind of want to talk about Chuck's novels because he just doesn't write comic books; he writes novels.
Indeed, yeah. I actually have a couple on my bookshelf here. Let's see if I can. You answer that, Chuck. I'll find a couple of these.
Okay. Well. What do you want to know?
Well, I just started. I've only read the first book of the Levon Cade series. I know there's several. I think 11.
There's 11. I'm about a third of the way through the 12th one now. So
the Shrinkage, one that I have, which is not about getting out of a cold swimming pool, and then Gomers, which is a zombie apocalypse story. Now, I have to apologize again for saying that I'm averse to apocalypse stories. I did read this to a certain extent, and I will, in all honesty, say I had to stop because I was having nightly nightmares.
All right. Excellent.
I was having nightmares about being in a zombie apocalypse from reading this book. So if you want to legitimately be creeped out and unnerved by zombies, then read Gomers. But since, what do you want to know? Like, what the heck was going on in your head when you wrote that book?
It was a book I had to write. I had to get a zombie novel out of my system because I was a big Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead fan from day one.
And again, that crime element, though, the main characters that we start with are they're kind of on the move, like was it nomadic scam artists?
Yeah, they're travelers. Yeah.
So, did you have any experience as I'm not saying as a scam artist, but like going around in Winnebagos and camping, or did you have to research that, or all of the above?
Not a whole lot of research because you've probably met a traveler and didn't know it. If you've ever been stopped in a gas station parking lot by two guys who have a van full of stereo speakers, you met a traveler. If you've ever had somebody you've never seen before come to your door and offer to recoat your driveway, you've met a traveler. And there's certain signs that let you know you've met one. You got to know what to look for. A station wagon full of kids with a rosary hanging over the rearview mirror is a good indication you've met a traveler.
Yes, I've met all of the above. Now and of course you had to get in your, everybody I think does have that in their head, like if I was in a zombie apocalypse, what location would be my favorite place to hold up to? You know, with Dawn of the Dead, it was a mall, and with The Mist, it was a supermarket. For you, it was a Home Depot, right?
Yeah, I mean, I fantasized for decades, you know, what would I do in a zombie apocalypse? And I was walking through the garden center at Home Depot one day, and I asked one of the employees, what's that huge, like, silo type thing at the rear of the garden center? And he goes, oh, that's where we catch rainwater. And I said, okay, this is where I'm going in the zombie apocalypse. There's food, there's building supplies, there's potentially weapons, and you can grow your own food.
I'm stealing a boat and going to an island.
Yeah, but it might be an island full of zombies.
Well, I'll clear out that island full of zombies and then live there and not have to worry about zombies anymore.
There you go.
Well, there are a lot of issues. It's like because of the crappy economy, I've taken to, there's always a place throwing out a pallet, and as long as if they're not treated with chemicals like insecticides, if they're heat treated, I take them and turn them into planters, and then I grow my salads and tomatoes and potatoes and carrots and that sort of thing. But I have where we are, my garden's pretty open, people walking by can see it. So I was thinking like, yeah, if things got really bad where there was no food and I'm growing my own food, there's still, unless I want to stand out there with a shotgun, there's still going to be people running by and stealing my stuff as soon as my back is turned. So, that scenario is a lot more complex than you would think. Now, what is it? Obviously, like I'm a big reader of novels and comic books. I kind of go back and forth. Usually I don't have much time to read, but it's like, I'll put something in the car if I have to wait on kids pickup time at school, car line, that sort of thing. For you, what constitutes when it's going to be a novel versus when it's going to be a comic book?
Well, I basically started writing them when I wasn't getting enough comic book work. And I saw the ebook thing going on. I thought, well, this is pretty easy. Once I found someone that could format them for ebooks, I just started doing them. And, there are ideas that just don't lend themselves to comics in my mind. Plus, I didn't want to wait for an artist. Something like Levon Cade, vigilante justice thing, more grounded in reality than the Punisher. I just don't think would fly as a comic. Probably Bad Times, my time travel series, that'd probably make a cool comic book. But,
Levon Cade needs to be on the big screen. That's all I got to say.
Well, Stallone optioned it for a while, and then I have some new interests from another place, because with the success of Terminal List and the Reacher series, Levon Cade fits right in that genre.
Oh, yeah. This is something I remembered now that I wanted to ask you, because last Friday, Das Wolfen here did a show about Lloyd Kaufman and Roger Corman. And I remember asking you about, you got to work for Roger Corman, but before you could kind of elaborate on that, somebody else came in with another question. I can't remember. It was a different show. And the subject went off somewhere else. But working for Roger Corman, can you please, we love Roger Corman as a filmmaker. I love his, not just, the movies that he makes, but how he makes movies, his low budget, no nonsense. This is what we're doing. This is what we've got. Get it done style. What was that process? What was that like? I got to know.
Well, I never worked with him. One of his people reached out to me, and they said, would you be interested in writing a treatment based on a premise that Roger came up with? And I said, okay. And the premise was that Corman got the rights for a couple of weeks to shoot at a faux forbidden city in China, not the actual forbidden city, because it's obviously forbidden, but somebody had made a copy, which we've seen in a million movies. But apparently it was open for a while, for a month or so, where no one was filming there, and Roger could get it cheap. And they wanted to kind of modern day Indiana Jones thing that would have 3 female leads, who I assume were attractive. And that was it. 3 female leads in search of treasure. They didn't really detail anything else, and it all has to be set around this Forbidden City. So immediately you have budgetary restraints on the writing, which is fine. I'm cool with that. And so I wrote a treatment and I handed it in, and they said thank you very much, and I just never heard anything back. So I guess they either didn't make it, went another direction. I never saw a movie like it, so I don't know.
It was probably too good.
That might be the problem.
Since we're not getting us to see a Batgirl movie, you can always check out Chuck's Batgirl comics.
Thank you.
Didn't you get in trouble for those too? Didn't somebody get just their panties in a bunch over your Batgirl comics?
I don't remember that.
I seem to remember something. So maybe it was a different Batgirl or something like that.
Well, it might have been something I ignored. I usually ignore those things.
Yeah. Was it you that had a line, something about Batgirl trying to figure out how to swing from a rope and she almost killed herself?
I think that's in Batgirl Year One.
Was that you? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think in Batgirl Year One, her first attempts to do what Batman and Robin do just didn't work. She didn't have the proper equipment.
Right. Which I thought was, again, a brilliant way to approach a character in their learning process. But I think you wrote a line in there that said math is hard. Like Batgirl said that. And immediately some people got pissed off because they're like, that makes Batgirl sound dumb or something. Yeah,
because I so clearly show her as dumb. I portray her as an idiot. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That was
context, people. Context.
That was a fun one. Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Chris, I gotta say that the cords, the cables that I had Batman and Robin use and Nightwing when I wrote these things, I owe them to Sylvester Stallone. Stallone discovered the D-cell cable, the cable that as you fall actually slows your descent, and it's what they used in Demolition Man.
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
If I may, Mr. Dixon, this is turning into a watching of sorts. But we have this question right here.
By the way, I didn't know that Chuck did the Batman versus Predator comics. Has Chuck checked out the YouTube vid Batman Dead End, where he's up against the Joker, Predators, and Xenomorphs, aliens? That was done by, what's the name of that guy?
Bat in the Sun?
What's that?
Was it Bat in the Sun?
No, it was a Batman Predator.
No, the name of the channel, I think it was Bat in the Sun.
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to remember the name. I've interviewed him on my own channel. He's a special effects artist, but yeah, Chuck, did you see that one?
Yeah, I saw that a few years ago. That's excellent. I'd love to see a feature. That's never going to happen.
No, unfortunately. My only complaint about it is that it obviously has a lot of ideas in it that he had to cram in that short amount of time, But yeah, it looked really good. I kind of looked at it thinking they probably watched that when Snyder was, finalizing the Ben Affleck Batman look.
Yeah.
Because it did have that kind of bruiser quality to it. But yeah. So one last thing I wanted to ask you is going back to Spinner Rack. You said you have a mobile game. Can you give us any information on, is it going to be, just on an app store? Can you play it on your phone? How's it, or is it all hush hush at the moment?
Well, it'll be an app. You can play it on your phone because it's a mobile game. The first 2 games, we'll have a fighting game. They're mobile games. They're simple. This is where we begin. And the other one is a kind of a Bejeweled type game, simple mix and match game featuring the characters. And it's to familiarize people who aren't familiar with our characters with them, kind of getting out of our own neighborhood, getting out of the comics neighborhood. And then, of course, this will lead to, a full 3D, fighting game. So
I noticed, too, things like, when I watch some of the live streams where people are promoting their different Indiegogos or, their add-ons, there's a lot of trading cards. Are you a comics trading card fan at all?
No, not really.
No,
I've written them, but I've never really not that big on them.
It's funny. I haven't done trading cards in a long time, but it's just something that I've noticed. And it's all the old school stuff like character power levels,
right,
and things that now that I'm in my 40s, I don't generally think about as much. But apparently, there's still people that love those. But anyway, I think what are we at? We're at hour and 20 minutes. I think this has been a really good show. Is there anything else that we missed that you wanted to talk about?
No, I got stuff coming up. I'll come back and talk about that when it happens. But
that's
I got
great. Well, I hope
projects in the works.
Yeah, this is really exciting for me. I love to see what you're doing. Just the excitement of you've always got something new going on, and the audience for it is there. That's the thing that really excites me. People do want this stuff. I think one of my big pet peeves these days is people keep going, oh, they're coming out, like I said, new Star Wars movie, new Indiana Jones. It's going to be terrible. We know it's going to be terrible, but I'm going to check it out anyway. And I'm like, stop it. Stop it.
Yes.
Just walk away. Why can't you walk away? I know for people who are live streamers and that sort of thing, yes, it's, critique and review. It's good for clicks and the subject going. But I feel like telling people like they're never going to stop until you just go check out something else.
Right.
And when it comes to you, there's always something new and exciting to check out. I am so excited for First Kill. And I am so excited to see what you do with Spinner Rack. And I'm so excited to see what happens with Something Big and My Sister Suprema, which is really cute. And if there's one that I would say, like, if you've got kids, if you want to make them check out any one, like, have them check out that one because it's so much fun. It's so cute and funny. And, it really, again, over the top. There's a lot of Chuck's humor in it. But Chuck, thank you very much. And I want to say thank you, of course, to Das Wolfen, who seems to want to say something.
Well, I was going to say that when the 12th Levon Cade book comes out, I think it'd be awesome to have you on my show to talk about it.
Sure. Absolutely. Reach out.
Okay.
Oh,
thank you.
It'll probably be out next year. Probably February.
Are you friends?
We'll be on the radio station then.
Yep. Cool. We're gonna be worldwide, man. Not that YouTube wasn't worldwide, but
Yeah.
Well, we have this last request.
Oh yes,
I find it very interesting.
Oh yes, could Chuck recommend one graphic novel from his DC work and one from his indie work?
If you can find it, for my DC work, it would be Joker's Devil's Advocate. It's a Graham Nolan and I do what we felt was our ultimate Joker story. And for my indie work, I guess look for Winter World.
Great. I actually hadn't heard of Winter World. What's that one about?
It's a comic I did in the 80s. We brought it back at IDW in the early 2000s. It's, well, you won't like it. It's post-apocalyptic. It's about the world's frozen over. It's kind of Road Warrior on ice.
Okay.
He may not like it, but I will because I'm a huge post-apocalyptic fan.
Yeah, well, the artwork alone, the first two stories are by Jorge Zafino. The guy is a legend, a genius. The artwork is absolutely jaw-dropping. He's the artist that every artist asks me about.
And by the way, when it comes to my opinions on post-apocalyptic, don't listen to me. Anyone that knows me is I'm an absolute killjoy. If everyone loves it, I'm like, oh, really? Come on, guys.
You're a killjoy about the apocalypse?
Right?
Yeah, maybe you just don't like the competition in the killjoy category.
Right. The apocalypse happens. I'm standing in the rubble going, come on, guys. This is so cliche.
Mohawks, really?
Where did you get your manicure during the apocalypse? Come on. Yeah. And I'm just going to say, by the way, my after Batman Death in the Family, when the new Robin came along, Chuck did a run. He did the first Robin run, and there was a Robin 2 as well. Maybe it's childhood nostalgia, but when that came out, I had an absolutely great time with that. So if you can find Chuck's Robin series and Robin 2, and even better if you can find the back issues with the hologram covers, absolutely a great time. And but Real World Nation is joining us as we're wrapping up. So this is a great time to once again say thank you to Das Wolfen for being here, Martine for being the rock for which we would sink into the ocean as a live stream without. And yes, the First Kill campaign there, if you want to get your copy, is up. And we want to thank everyone in the chat. So thank you again for joining us, Colonizer Jeebus, Gap After Dark, D-Bud Martin, Anima Confusa. My mouth automatically goes.
He's getting
when I try and,
significantly better.
I'm getting better. Practice. Joe's Atmosphere, who is my honorary oos. Wajid Leaky, as my voice breaks. Shouldn't do that. I'm in my 40s, for Christ's sake. Magitech Mags, Zax, Dragon Ruse, Bill Barclay, Peter Vakeman Fan Site, Shinosky, probably said that wrong, and we have Jay Zertz, my voice is going, Cam's Crash Course, and Real World Nation. Once again, Penny is here. I didn't see Penny in the notes.
She just arrived.
Penny.
And if we missed anybody, I apologize for that. I may have Robin too if it didn't trade for Trek. Oh, Robin 2 is awesome.
I may have called that number to kill Robin multiple times.
Kill. So thank you everyone for joining us. And Chuck, great big thank you to you. This is the third time I've interviewed you, and you're always a lot of fun, and you're always patient with me and my curmudgeonly questions and hate towards Alien 3 and the apocalypse. But I hope to do it again. And
absolutely.
So with that, I think Martin, unless I'm forgetting something.
Yeah, I think we're okay. Let me.
All right. So why don't you take us out? Thanks everyone, and happy Thanksgiving.
Hey guys, thanks for watching Pop Culture Minefield. If you've enjoyed the show, please make sure to like, subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell icon for updates on our shows and channel. Also, please leave a comment, and we'd like to know what you thought of the episode, as well as letting us know if there's something you'd like us to cover in a future episode. Don't forget that you can become a member of Pop Culture Minefield now. Make sure to visit our membership page and merch store at popcultureminefield.com. You can always find Pop Culture Minefield on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch.
Thank you.
Wait. We're still on air.